All right, welcome back to Walk Through Open Doors. My name is James. We are continuing a series where we talk about taking the best traits of the best leaders and bringing them into our own life so that we can be effective leaders of who we are and where we're going. Today we're talking about integrity. So it's strange, but to a lot of people, the idea of integrity seems old-fashioned. It seems like something that they had back in the 50s or before that. It's something that they tell me it doesn't make sense in the modern world. You know, everybody's so cutthroat and people are so awful and nobody lives in that Pollyanna sunshine and rainbows world anymore where you can have integrity. And you know, my suspicion is that they probably always said this. I think like the oldest written thing they found, like the oldest document, is like somebody complaining about how the world was going to shit because the next generation was a bunch of idiots who didn't know what they were doing. It's a common human thing to think that the world used to always be better. Integrity is universal. Integrity has always been here. It will always be here. And I guess I would say that if we really are living in a world where there is no integrity anymore, then we're all screwed. Because integrity is it's not just a character trait. It's not just something we should try to embody. It is absolutely foundational to everything that is. And I can tell you that it still exists because I am fortunate enough to work with a lot of people who embody integrity in everything they do. It infuses their life in every way. So integrity still exists and it does still matter. And without it, everything collapses. You cannot have anything worth having without integrity because it's just a matter of time before it falls apart. So when I talk about integrity, what I mean is that being who you say you are all the time, whether you're being watched, whether you're not being watched. A person who is morally upright and does the right thing when somebody sees them, good. I mean, I guess that's better than being bad when people are watching you. But if they are shady and full of shit and they lie behind the scenes, that's who they really are. They do not have integrity. You cannot have like a lower level of behavior, a lower level of doing the right thing and still have integrity. It has to be all the way around. I think to some extent, this is why we're fascinated with even like villains who have integrity, villains who do what they say they're going to do and they are consistent and they don't beg for mercy at the end of the movie. We kind of respect them. I think that we would probably rather see a bad person with integrity than a person who pretends to be good and doesn't have it, or a good person who doesn't have the guts to do the right thing. Because that's a huge part of integrity, is doing the right thing, following out your vision and your values and doing what you think is right even when it's hard. I would say especially when it's hard, because like doing the right thing without pushback, that like everybody can do that. Like a person who does the right thing when it benefits them and does the right thing when they get something back for it, that's not very impressive. That's just them serving their own self-interest. But the people who do the right thing even when it costs them, when they do the right thing in the face of pressure, those are the people that we tend to really look up to. I've often said that like there are people who I disagree with philosophically or ideologically who I respect more than some people who agree with me philosophically and ideologically because they're willing to stand up for what's right. I've seen this happen over the years many times. And this crosses like philosophical boundaries, ideological boundaries, religious boundaries, whatever it is that I happen to believe at the time, because that's changed a lot as I've aged. I've just always noticed that I could disagree with somebody about the details, but if they were willing to stand up for those details in a way that showed integrity and courage, I liked them. Whether we agreed about the details of things or not, I liked that person and I trusted them. And to some extent, I was more willing to listen to what they had to say because I knew they were willing to walk it out. That's integrity. If you have integrity, it will cover over so many other shortcomings. You know, a lack of education, a lack of social grooming, a lack of all these different things. If you have integrity, a lot of people are willing to overlook those things. If you have integrity, it's going to lead you to do the things that are going to make people want to work with you, to make people want to spend more time with you. As a species, we are mistrustful towards people who lie, as we should be because they lie. As a species, we don't want to invest mentally and emotionally and in any other way in somebody that we can't trust. Because if you can't trust somebody, it's just a matter of time before they do something that makes your life harder. It's just a matter of time before they blow everything up. A person without integrity is maybe they do the right thing 99% of the time. The problem is that 1%. You have to be able to trust that somebody is who they say they are all the time. Otherwise, that 1% or that 5%, whatever the percentage is, when that comes along, it's going to disrupt everything. It's going to mess everything up. For you personally, let's say that you are just leading your own life. You're saying to me, James, this is silly. I don't have a company. I don't lead people. I'm just John walking along in my life doing the best I can. If you can't do that with integrity, you can't even trust yourself. One of the things that I heard over and over the years as a therapist and a coach is people saying they couldn't change because they couldn't trust themselves to show up. I dealt with this for a long time. Young James was a nightmare. He was a pain in the ass, and he was a genuine shithead. But I was really never mean-spirited. I was never I never looked to do harm to other people. But I would often say is that hey, this James here that you're talking to, he wants to do better, and he wants to change his life, and he wants to improve things. But there's this other James that will show up, and he will wreck everything. And the good James, the light James, whatever you want to call him, he could do everything right for weeks or even months. He could go to school, and he could get a job, and he could do all these things. That other James would come along and in one night could wreck everything by wrecking his car or by getting us thrown in jail or whatever. That's what a lack of integrity will do. A person who has integrity, for the most part, but they keep this little part of themselves off to the side where they are going to do what's in their own self-interest or whatever benefits them in the moment, even if it screws other people over, on a long enough timeline, that person's going to come out and they're going to wreck everything. If you are that kind of person on a long enough timeline, that worse version of yourself, that lower vibration version of yourself, whatever you want to call it, is going to come along and wreck everything you're trying to do in your life. As a leader of your life, you cannot make a plan if you don't have integrity because you won't stick to it. You can't trust yourself to say, why make a plan if you're not going to stick to it? Why bother? Let's say I want to build a new, I got a swing in the backyard. And I got this little porch thing, and it's got like a roof type thing over it. Let's say that I want to rebuild that. And I might have to do this actually. The squirrels have been chewing on it and all this stuff. And so I sit down and I map out a plan. And I draw it out, and everything's going to be square and everything. I'm going to know the materials I need. I'm going to know how long it's going to take. It's going to make the whole project easier. But if deep down I know that I don't have the integrity to stick to my plan, and I'm just going to start improvising, why bother making the plan? Why bother? I'm not going to stick to it, so why am I taking the time to do that? And number two, I need to go ahead and accept that thing's probably going to fall down and break my swing or break my head, whatever, if I'm sitting there because I didn't follow the plan. That is what happens when you don't have integrity. That's what's going to happen to you if you choose to deal with people who don't have integrity. This is especially sad when you see it in a company where people are depending on somebody, or in a family where the kids are depending on the parents. It's sad because the people who trust the people without integrity are the ones who probably get hurt the worst. We've seen this in these we see these whole corporations collapse. We see, was it Madoff, Bernie Madoff, and Enron, these people who trusted this entity that did not have integrity, and they lost everything for it. If you don't have integrity, you don't have anything. If you cannot be trusted to be who you say you are and do what you say you're going to do, you don't have anything at all. It's like if you had a really strong chain, a 10-foot chain, but the link in the middle is made of paper or is made of plastic. You do not have a 10-foot chain. You have 2 5-foot chains. That one link is going to compromise everything. That's how it is with integrity. And I know that sounds old-fashioned. I know that sounds, maybe idealistic. But it's the truth. And I've seen it again and again, and it never fails. No integrity, no chance of success. Now, I don't want that to feel overwhelming. I don't want it to feel like it's something that you just can't achieve, and so why bother trying? Integrity is a discipline. It's not a trait. You aren't just born with or without it. I think your upbringing and the choices you make when you're young and stuff, that'll make it easier or harder to have integrity, but you can turn that around. I will tell you that if there are people who used to know me listening to this podcast or they saw the name of it, they'd be like, what is this idiot doing talking about integrity? I was full of shit. I would lie to get what I wanted. I would lie to get out of work. I wouldn't even show up for work. I did not even have the integrity to follow through and be the places I said I would be. I did not have the integrity to be loyal to my friends and to be loyal to the people I dated. And I had no business being that way. I was raised differently. I was raised to have integrity. I don't know what went wrong in me. There were factors and things in my life that I think probably messed my mental health up and my emotional health up, and I didn't respond well. But the point of that is to say is that at some point I decided that I realized, holy shit, I don't like who I am. I'm not who I need to be. And these are the consequences in my life. And I changed. It was incremental. I started doing the little things that I knew how to do to show up, to have integrity, to have discipline, to do the right thing. And before long, in the same way that like not having integrity was just what I did, having integrity became just a normal, natural part of my life. And you can do the same thing. Anybody can do it. Integrity is just a choice we make. I think that's why it's really hard for me when I run into people who don't have it and who know they don't have it and won't do anything about it. Because it's not like a person who has some kind of like physical problem that they can't do anything about, or who has mental health things and stuff that they can't do anything about. This is just a simple choice of who you want to be and then taking the steps to do it. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it will cost you friends. If your friends don't have integrity, if your friends are shady, having integrity will cost you your friends. You'll be better off because those people are going to make a mess out of your life. It's guaranteed. It's guaranteed. Shady people will make a mess out of your life. If you're shady, you're going to make a mess of your life and other people's life. So it sounds simple, but the first step you can take to have integrity is to decide to have integrity. Define integrity. Understand what integrity means, and then start doing that. It really is that simple. So the idea of how to have integrity may be simple, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to dive into it in the newsletter next week. And the newsletter is called The Walkthrough. Next week's walkthrough is going to be about how to start cultivating integrity in your life. I approach everything from a very realistic perspective. It's not like, it's not like a movie where a person decides to change. I always think of Roger Rabbit, which I love. I love that movie. But there's a scene at the end where the detective Eddie, he throws his liquor bottle away and shoots it with these cartoon bullets. I think it like chops it with a tomahawk. And like the implication there is that, okay, he's never going to drink again. That's not how it works. If you've dealt with alcoholism, if you know an alcoholic, if you know anybody who struggles with drinking, you know how often they make the big gesture of throwing the bottle away, and then 3 days later you can't find them. It's a choice you got to make every day. So in the newsletter, we're going to dive into first of all, what does it look like not to have integrity? What are the consequences? What does it look like to have integrity? And what do you need to do to start getting there? And just like always, there's going to be journal prompts to help bring it into your life. That is the way to take these things that we talk about here and apply them in a very concrete way. But you don't have to wait till then. Just today, ask yourself, what would it look like if I lived with integrity? What would my life look like? What kind of person would I be? What would I say? What would I not say? What would I do? What would I not do? If I had integrity, what would that look like? And then just start doing it. We're going to shore it up next week with the newsletter. We're going to make it easier for you, but you can start that today and you'll never regret it. You will not regret having integrity even when times are hard. I think going through hard times and making hard decisions because of your integrity is easier than coasting along and not ever having to deal with any trouble because you don't have enough integrity to confront the things you need to confront. It's a decision you won't regret. I would encourage you to start today and then reinforce it next week with the walkthrough. There's a link below where you can sign up. As always, I'm so grateful that you take the time to listen to these things I say and watch these videos and read what I write. I always look forward to doing them. I really enjoy hearing back from people. So this week, just make a choice, have integrity, see what that would look like in your life, and start walking it out. Next week, we're going to talk about emotional steadiness. This is another key trait of being a leader, whether you lead people or you lead your own life. Without emotional steadiness, you will not be able to stick with anything. You will always end up going back and throwing your progress out the window because you are depending on the whims of your emotions. So that's going to be a fun one. I will look forward to talking to you about that in 2 weeks. Take care.